Hello, everybody. I'm sitting in my car in the rain in the empty parking lot of the church where we had my mom's memorial service today. So we honored my mom today, and it was a beautiful service. And my mom was a wonderful person, and she touched the lives of many, many people. And I just wanted some time alone to read the Word and to just spend some time with God. And I'm glad you're here with me. So, if you have your Bibles, today's January 14th. And let's begin. Joseph's dreams. Genesis 37, 1 through 17. Here, let me. It's kind of difficult to do this in my car, but Genesis 37, 1 through 17, 1898 or 1732 BC. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. So one night Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. "Listen to this dream," he said. "We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain, and suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine." His brothers responded, "So you think you'll be our king, do you? Do you actually think that you will reign over us?" And they all hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. So Joseph should have kept his dreams to himself, okay? So Joseph soon had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. "Listen, I had another dream," he said. "The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me." This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers. But his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that?" he said. "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you?" But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, "Your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send you to go to them." "I'm ready to go," Joseph replied. "Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along," Jacob said. "Then come back and bring me a report." So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "I'm looking for my brothers," Joseph replied. "Do you know where they are pasturing their sheep?" "Yes," the man told him. "They had moved on from here, but I heard them say, 'Let's go on to Dothan.'" So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan and found them there. Joseph sold into slavery, Genesis 37, 18 through 36. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns." Yeah, we can tell our father. A wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuben heard of their scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. Let's not kill him, he said. Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into the empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without our laying a hand on him. Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. Reuben was a good guy. I would have done what Reuben did. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the beautiful robe that he was... Hang on the page. That he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty and there was no water in it. Then, just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming towards them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's just sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midian traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver. Then the traders took him to Egypt. Gosh, can you imagine your siblings selling you to... Sometime later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the cistern. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then he went back to his brothers and lamented, "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" Then the brothers killed a young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in his blood. Gosh, that's so cruel. They sent the beautiful robe to their father with this message: "Look at what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son?" Their father recognized it immediately. "Yes," he said, "it is my son's robe, and a wild animal must have eaten him. Joseph has clearly been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a very long time. Yeah, I've been mourning the loss of my mom, so... Gosh, I can't imagine this cruelty. How could they do that to him? His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "I will go to my grave mourning for my son." I would too. He would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. Judah and Tamar. Genesis 38, 1-30. About this time, Judah left home and moved to Adullam, where he stayed with a man named Hira. There he saw a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and he married her. When he slept with her, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and he named the boy Then she became pregnant again and gave birth to another son, and she named him Onan. And when she gave birth to a third son, she named him Shelah. At the time of Shelah's birth, they were living in Kezeb. In the course of time, Judah arranged for his firstborn son to marry a young woman named Tamar. But was a wicked man in the Lord's sight, so the Lord took his life. Then Judah said to Er's brother Onan, "Go and marry Tamar, as our law requires of the brother of the man who has died. You must produce an heir for your brother." But Onan was not willing to have a child who would not be his own heir. So whenever he had intercourse with his brother's wife, he spilled the semen on the ground. This prevented her from having a child who would belong to his brother. But the Lord considered it evil for Onan to deny a child to his dead brother, so the Lord took Onan's life too. Onan. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Go back to your parents' home and remain a widow until my son Shelah is old enough to marry you." But Judah didn't really intend to do this because he was afraid that Shelah would also die like his two brothers. So Tamar went back to live in her father's home. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find a place to... There, maybe that'll work. Okay. Oh. So Tamar went back to live in her father's home. Some years later, Judah's wife died. After the time of mourning was over, Judah and his friend Hira, the Adullamite, went up to Timnah to supervise the shearing of his sheep. Someone told Tamar, "Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." Tamar was aware that Shelah had grown up, but no arrangements had been made for her to come and marry him. So she changed out of her widow's clothing and covered herself with a veil to disguise herself. Then she sat beside the road at the entrance of the village of Enam, which is on the road to Timnah. Judah noticed her and thought she was a prostitute, since she had covered her face. So he stopped and propositioned her. Oh, God. "Let me have sex with you," he said, not realizing that she was his own daughter-in-law. Telling you, the Bible gets really weird with family relationships. "How much will you pay to have sex with me?" Tamar asked. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," Judah promised. "But what will you give me to guarantee that you will send the goat?" she asked. "What kind of guarantee do you want?" he replied. She answered, "Leave me your identification seal and its cord and the walking stick you are carrying." So Judah gave them to her. Then he had intercourse with her and she became pregnant. Oh, God. Afterward, she went back home, took off her veil, and put on her widow's clothing as usual. Later, Judah asked his friend Hira the Adullamite to take the young goat to the woman and to pick up the things he had given her as his guarantee. But Hira couldn't find her. So he asked the men who lived there, "Where can I find the shrine prostitute who was sitting beside the road at the entrance to Enam?" "We've never had a shrine prostitute here," they replied. So Hira returned to Judah and told him, "I couldn't find her anywhere. And some of the men in the village claim that they've never had a shrine prostitute there. So let me keep the things I gave her," Judah said. "I sent the young goat as we agreed, but you couldn't find her. We'd be the laughing stock of the village if we went back again to look for her." About 3 months later, Judah said, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has acted like a prostitute, and now because of this, she's pregnant." "Bring her out and let her be burned," Judah demanded. But as they were taking her out to kill her, she sent this message to her father-in-law: "The man who owns these things made me pregnant. Look closely. Whose seal and cord and walking stick are these?" Judah recognized them immediately and said, "She is more righteous than I am because I didn't arrange for her to marry my son Shelah." And Judah never slept with Tamar again. Well, I would think so. Yeah. Thank God for that. When the time came for Tamar to give birth, it was discovered that she was carrying twins. While she was in labor, one of the babies reached out his hand, and the midwife grabbed it and tied a scarlet string around the child's wrist, announcing, "This one came out first." But then he pulled back his hand, and out came his brother. "What?" the midwife exclaimed. "How did you break out first?" So his name was Perez. Then the baby with the scarlet string on his wrist was born, and he was named Zerah. How cute. The descendants of Judah, 1 Chronicles 2, 3-6. Judah had 3 sons from Bathshua, the Canaanite woman. Their names were Onan, and Shelah. But the Lord saw that the oldest son was a wicked man, so he killed him. Later, Judah had twin sons from Tamar, his widowed daughter-in-law. Their names were Perez and Zerah. So Judah had 5 sons in all. The sons of Perah were Hezron and Hamuel, and the sons of Zerah were Zimri, Ethan, Haman, Calcol, and Darda, 5 in all. 1 Chronicles 2-8. The son of Ethan was Azareth. Joseph in Potiphar's house. Genesis 39, 1-18. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded, but Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by the cloak, demanding, "Come on and sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. Joseph had some good morals. Sorry, that's my phone. And I can't mess with my phone right now. So come and sleep with me. Joseph tore himself away, but his cloak was left in her hand, and he ran from the house. When she saw that she was holding his cloak and he fled, she called out to her servants. Little sleaze. I can't believe she did that to him. Soon all the men came running. Look, she said, my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fool of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard my scream, he ran outside and he got away, but he left his cloak behind with me. She kept the cloak with her until her husband came home. Then she told him her story. That Hebrew slave that you brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me, she said. But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me. She lied. She lied. Joseph put in prison, Genesis 39:19-23. Potiphar was furious when he found his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his beautiful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. See, the Lord totally protected him and caused everything to succeed that he did. Wow. So Joseph was a good guy. He didn't deserve that kind of treatment. So, but the Lord protected him. Anyhow, thank you for being here. It's such a good story. So, it's my beautiful mother. And today we honored her today. It was a beautiful celebration. So, and it's just funny, I have difficulties with my siblings and my father, and I had a lot of difficulties with my mother. But the more I read in the Bible about how, Joseph and his brothers, or, Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel, they all had a lot of difficulties with their siblings. So I hope that encourages you today that, you know, it's pretty normal in the world to have problems with your siblings. But when you do the right thing like Joseph did, and you love, and you don't seek revenge, and you're honest, and you do the right thing, God will honor you. Even in the middle of a prison cell, and God will take care of you. He will make sure that you are first in line, that you're the head of the game. He'll take care of you. So I hope this encourages you today, that if we just keep doing the right thing and we keep going after the things of God, that He will bless us, and He will make sure that we have the desires of our heart. I sat today honoring my mom, and my brother was right next to me, and he and I have had a lot of difficulties, but he was there for me to comfort me when I was crying about my mother, and I've been there for him, and he knows that I love him and he loves me. And so because I decided I was going to love my brother no matter what, the Lord blessed me with that, and I was able to have a really peaceful, wonderful time with my siblings today, honoring our mother. And even though we have difficulties, we all love each other, and that's a beautiful thing. So by doing the right thing in front of God, I got blessed. So I just want to encourage you that if you have a difficult sibling or a difficult family member, just love them. Just forgive them. Just try your best to see them the way God would want you to see them. And pray for them, because it's impossible to remain angry at somebody that you're praying for. And the Bible says to pray for those who persecute you, and to forgive those that hurt you. And it's so true. The joy and the peace that you have in your heart transcends all of it, and you'll be able to have peace and joy. You can't control the way the other person behaves, but the Bible says, to live at peace with all men, as long as it, as far as you're concerned, to do your best to live at peace. And by doing that, He will bless your life. And when people see that you're different, that you're going to love people that are difficult, love people no matter how they treat you, they're going to go, geez, I wonder what's different about her. And you can tell them about the Lord. So thanks for being here. God bless you. And just let us all be as good as Joseph. So I hope you come back tomorrow. Thanks.